What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Hello, y'all. Welcome. Aloha. I am Daniel Aaron, your host, and this is the Art of Vibrant Living show. And shocker here, as the title indicates, this show is all about entertaining you, empowering you, inspiring you to create your life into a masterpiece, a thriving, amazing life. And so what we do is have amazing people on here, and I grill them and interrogate them to draw the gold right out of them for you. So here's my suggestion to you. 1, please enjoy. 2, don't just be entertained. Take at least one thing that you hear, because we got an amazing show and phenomenal guest today. Take at least one thing. Commit to applying it in your life, right? That's what counts. And by the way, if you don't feel like you are thriving at your full potential, if you feel like there's something more, you're breaking out of something and you would like some help, please do reach out. Just send me an email, daniel@danielaaron.com. I would love to connect with you, love to support you. So today's guest, Callie Kares, amazing, amazing woman. You are going to be blown away by her story, her experience, the wisdom that she has to share. She's, I would read her bio, but it's going to be way better for you to hear it from her because her story is phenomenal. I don't want to steal the thunder on that. So we're super lucky to have her today. Callie, thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Aloha, great to be here with you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, so, I have the advantage at the moment of knowing a little bit about your extraordinary background, and no one's background defines who they are and their future, yet the way you overcame in your background certainly says so much about you and about everybody's potential, right? So would you be up for just sharing with our guests a little bit about, how you got to be here and what's informed you to this point?
Yes, absolutely. I'm wondering if you're talking about my story that was featured with luminaries Lisa Nichols from the movie The Secret, or are you talking about how I got to Hawaii back in 2019? Which story are you referring to?
Well, now that you've teased both of those, we're going to have to talk about both of them. But let's go with the earlier one first, because I know everybody listening at this point is like, "What's she talking about? What? Give me that story."
Right. Okay. So back when I was 20 years of age, I had an incredible thing happen to me, which has given me the knowledge that we are infinite beings that capable of limitless possibilities. And so when I was in university taking psychology and sociology, because I had a tumultuous childhood, and it was a very dysfunctional family that I grew up in, but you wouldn't have never known on the outside because I went to private school and we had part of the yacht club and everything like that. So because I had some belief systems and those kind of experiences, I attracted my very first boyfriend in my life when I was 20 was a psychopath, and he was stalking me. And I changed universities and I changed everything. I met him we were coworkers. We had the same boss. And so I changed work and everything, but he found me. And on January 22nd, this month, many years ago, when I was 20, he was in my hiding in my underground parking lot. And I knew that I had to get to my I knew actually intuitively that he was there, but I thought I could get to my car and get out without getting, but I wasn't able to get into my car because he put some toothpicks into my key lock. And so I was trapped, and he ran up behind me and shot me in the back, point blank, and he left me paralyzed there. And then when I talked him out of shooting me in the head and then shooting himself in the head, he actually said to me, well, if I'm going to leave you here with nothing to, if I'm going to leave you here, I'm going to leave you here with nothing to live for. And I knew intuitively, instantaneously, that he meant he was going to go kill my family. So I drove my car with my hands, and because my legs weren't working, anything from my L4 where the bullet is still embedded, I couldn't use. So I drove my car with my hands, and luckily I got my family out of their house so that the police were waiting for him when he arrived there. And then the big part of the story is the fact that when they told me that the bullet was embedded in my spine and the cord was basically cut, there was just a few fibers left, and I had no feeling whatsoever. I just instantaneously said, there's nothing that I'm going to do but walk out of this hospital. That's the only thing that I'm going to do. I claimed my future. I claimed it, and there was no other thing. And I had learned visualization from my basketball coaches that were like a Super Bowl ring winners and everything. So they knew visualization. So I was taught that way before The Secret and all of these things. And so I used visualization, and I saw myself dancing. Actually, I was on the mainland, but I saw myself in Hawaii dancing and swimming and set that as my destination. So it happened on January 22nd. And then 6 weeks later, I had an instantaneous healing where I went from being paralyzed to dancing in the moment. My mom's like, let's get you to the hospital. The bullets must have moved. And I said, no, Mom, this is a miracle. This is the miracle I was asking for. And then I hopped on a plane, and I was in Hawaii for April, which was my birthday. And I had spent my 21st birthday in Hawaii. And I've had a love affair with Hawaii I've had a love affair since I was a preteen. First time I ever stepped my feet on the Aina, which is land in Hawaiian. I just knew that this was the place that I was supposed to be.
Wow. All right. And of course, this is the kind of stuff that we see in movies and hear about, read in the newspaper, and it doesn't seem real to most of us. Yet you experienced that, and it's just phenomenal. So how did you, I mean, to be shot, to be paralyzed, to be able to drive a car with your hands, your legs not working, how could that happen, right? Like, I'm just playing angel's advocate in a sense, because I have some imaginations myself as to that, but there's got to be like a lot of people that would hear that and go, huh, no way, that's not possible. What do you think?
Right. I understand, but I have the bullet in my back, so I can prove it. It's still there. And I will share this. Just because I had the physical healing doesn't mean that I had the emotional healing as well, because there was a lot of personal growth that I needed to do to get over a lot of things, like, why would somebody do this to me? How could somebody who is apparently supposed to love me be able to do these things? And those are the types of things that a lot of people in their life may have those same thoughts. Maybe not obviously not the grave experience that I had, but that's what I help a lot of clients with. It's like, how could my partner do this to me? Like, how could they abuse me? Or how could a business partner rip me off? Or how could blah, 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 and those, the how coulds and all of the things that, that reel in people's minds. I had to do a lot of work around that. Even though I was physically healed, there was still all the emotional and psychological and belief systems that needed to be cleared, and I dedicated to that, which then brought me into the personal development that I've done, or that I do, and I've been doing for over 20 years now, and helping tens of thousands of clients. So does that answer your question?
Well, yes. I mean, that's great what you said. And I think that's really worthy for us to explore a bit. Like the physical healing is amazing and miraculous in and of itself. But yeah, to your point, that's not all that was required. And that in some ways was the beginning of another journey for you. And so I want to go back though, because there's more to my question, and you may not have an answer, and that's okay. And no doubt in my mind about that it happened, right? And I know you got the bullet that is still evidence of it, which is kind of a cool story in and of itself. But like for anybody who hears that, not for anybody, for some people who hears what you experience, it might just sound like it's not possible. So how do you reconcile it? Because of course you know it's possible more than anyone. You lived it, but how is it possible to overcome the thing of driving with your hands to save your family, let alone the miracle of being able to be up and dancing in a short while?
Right. So we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And I believe that anybody that connects with their faith and like with the spirit within inside them, that anything is possible. Now, I'm not saying that every single person can overcome paralysis. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when we set our minds and we really connect to who we are, we're spiritual beings. We are here having a human experience, and we can tap into the spirituality, to that connection that we have. And that can't be, that needs a lot. And since I was a young girl, I remember coming into this world and wondering like why people were being mean to each other. Why weren't people being loving? Why weren't people without even knowing about the Bible or the holy books of all different types? I was wondering, why were people not being kind and loving and doing the terrible things that they were doing? So if people can really connect to the true nature of who we are, then that's where the limitless possibilities. And we hear about it all the time. I mean, there's old ladies, like old grannies, that lift up cars to save their child or their grandchild. I mean, this isn't unique. It is profound. But there's tons of people that have done these things. And I've had so many miracles since then because I believe in it. And people talk about you have to see it to believe it. It's actually you have to believe it to see it. And that is one of the things that I help with my clients, is to believe something before they see it, to bring it into fruition. And I'm going to come back to the part about my healing. Was I didn't even tell my story for the longest time because I had shame and guilt, which is a very low vibration about that. And because of some things that happened around that. So Jack Canfield convinced me to come out with my story. And he kept saying, Callie, it doesn't matter that you've worked with celebrities and that you're doing all of this incredible stuff. He goes, you can help so many more people by coming out with this story. And I refused. He had to call me twice to convince me. So again, I had to do some healing around it. And I literally said, oh, I'm already healed. But coming out with my story actually brought me to a whole new level. And then also I got to now being a best-selling author with Neil Donald Walsh and Lisa Nichols and all these top luminaries, and being, with them, that it's really, I am helping so many more people than if I was just doing my wellness company in British Columbia. I mean, now it's global. I mean, people, it's a global movement that I'm on now.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. And I'm sure there was a lot we could talk about in terms of the path you trod upon to heal emotionally. Though let's take for a second what you just said about the shame, right? And we could, I'm sure, talk a lot about that and why that would be and all of that. But let's leave that aside for now, even though that's all interesting. Just how did you overcome that, right? How did you let go of the shame in order to step forward more?
That's a great question. So it is definitely the layers of the onion, definitely there. But the one really important thing that I needed to do was realize that I had some belief systems going on in behind, that I didn't realize that I had those tapes going, and that I was being influenced by the dysfunctional family that I grew up in. And that I was carrying those things. So once I had the awareness, which awareness is the first step, once I had the awareness of that, then I could unpeel those layers of where did I pick this up from? What is going on? What is my belief system? And that, that's a process to do.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, and it doesn't happen overnight necessarily. Interestingly, though, in that you had that physical miraculous experience that was kind of overnight, and I'll rewind for a moment. I love what you said earlier, and we could talk for hours about this too, about the spiritual nature, and if we tap into that, and I would say anyone does have the possibility of healing from paralysis, right? Of recovery. That said, I'll be careful, and I don't know if this is part of why you said it, because I would hate for anybody who's struggling with that to then blame themselves for not having healed it yet. But I remember my breathwork teacher years ago, when I first started into this, all the way back in 1996, she said, what we're doing here is spiritual healing. And I remember I was like new to the spiritual new agey world at the time. And I was like, oh, don't say that. Spiritual healing. That just sounds so airy fairy to me. But, and as I've gone on, I've grown to realize like, oh yeah, that is what we are doing. And that's the most powerful thing available. So what's, now that you've had this amazing journey of like this miraculous physical healing, this, I don't know if I would say arduous, but lengthy process to heal emotionally, peeling back the onion. What do you do now in, like, what are your kind of routines? How do you keep yourself so vibrant and beautiful and alive? What are the practices you find most important?
Thank you. And I want to acknowledge what you were just saying, that you're absolutely right, that spiritual healing is so vitally important, because if we are connected to our spirituality, and that's my answer is, I radiate on the outside because I radiate on the inside. I remember as a little girl singing the song about this little light of mine, I gotta let it shine. And we are all in charge of keeping that light inside of us lit. And so that is my number one mission, is to make sure, because when I can keep my light shining, then I can shine that for others. And it only takes one candle to light a room. So that's basically everything. So literally, when I put my feet on the floor in the morning, my mantra is, how can I make the world a better place? And it always starts with me. And then at night, it's the exact same thing, as how could I have done a better job of doing what I did today. And then I have a review of what I went through the day. And then it's like, oh, you might have missed this, or somebody said something like that and you didn't acknowledge them, and they weren't seen because you were too busy, blah, blah, blah. And so that is my number one mission, is to keep my light bright. And that's what I empower my clients to do, and my communities. And whether it's, if I'm just doing a community volunteering event, or on whatever stage I'm on, that's what I always make sure that people understand, that connecting to your light and keeping your light bright is our number one duty. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Beautiful. That's, yeah, I'm 100% with you. I love that song so much. I remember singing it to my daughter as a lullaby when she was a little girl.
That's beautiful.
And so what do you work with a lot of people? Let's say, what are the top ways that you advise people in terms of how to keep that light bright? Where does the rubber meet the road, so to speak, in how to do that?
Right. Well, since I've been here in Hawaii, now the invitation is my Hawaii retreats and to come and experience this. As you know, Hawaii is an incredible vortex where it can really support the healing and feel like the aloha spirit. And so that is my latest offerings. And then the people that can't make it to Hawaii, then I have them as clients. That the first thing that we go into is we look into what's their blocks and and it, like, again, it's unpeeling everything. And luckily the intuition part, because that's what kind of sets me aside, is I'm not just following some kind of book that, or some kind of process but it's a process that I have brought together of how to tap into yourself and into your intuition. And then I teach them to instead of me fishing for them, I teach them how to fish so that they can go into their bodies and into their belief systems and figure out what we need to lift up and release energetically and bring them into their solidness, into their spiritual genius and their genius professionally and personally. And so that's why I work with spiritually minded people. And, lots of other people have come to me and they said, well, I don't believe in God. Can I not work with you? Or can I work with you? And I said, well, who do you believe in? Or what do you believe in? And they're like, I have no belief system. I'm like, I'm not the one to be working with. I wish you the best, but I need to have, it's just, that's my jam. And I don't know how to do it any different, but to really empower people to understand, I'll have a conversation with them and see if I can bring them to the water and they'll drink the water. But if they're not going to drink the water and believe that they're a spiritual being and that there's life after death, and that if that's not there, then I wish them well. And I really I'm very selective with who I work with.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So I know there was a time in my life when intuition felt like something inaccessible to me, right? And I imagine that's the case for a lot of people. And I think I've read somewhere that you've written that everybody actually could have access to their intuition, right? That it's installed. It's part of the factory system for this human spirit, body, mind thing. So what can we do if we're out of touch with intuition or if we don't trust it? Can you teach us more right now about how to access it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right that everybody has the innate wisdom, and that all they have to do is turn down the static and tune into their intuition. We all have it. We've been all born with it. We all have had experiences where we know that the phone's going to ring, or we think about somebody and then they call, and it's actually because we're already tuned into it. And I call it the real World Wide Web. Is, we have it at our fingertips, the www, but the real World Wide Web is the connected cosmos, is the connection that we're all one, and that we can connect into our intuition as well. So things to do to tune down the static and tune into. So you mentioned one, and I also, as well as a breathwork facilitator, breathwork is so important. And grounding is another thing, and really spending time in nature. And that's what's so incredible, like with us living in Hawaii, right? We have nature all around us. And listening to the birds singing out through the window right now, and looking at the blue skies and the palm trees swaying in the breeze. and the ocean. So ocean clears us and cleanses us, and having fresh air, getting out into nature, that's so important. There's so many people right now that are, especially because of COVID, and the pandemic changed the way that they're living, that they're in front of their computer all the time, they're in the house, and they haven't broken free from returning back into nature and returning back into our true nature. So that is really vitally important, to be into our natural selves, which is to be an intuitive person. That's what and it's been for eons. There's been stories of how this was normal until technology came around and we started to rely on technology instead of the innate wisdom that we have inside of us.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm with you, and it makes sense to me personally, because I grew up very much in that era of better living through science, and my family had very little exercise, no connection to nature, and so I grew up as a kid insulated from those joys. And as you say that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's when my intuition started to come alive, is when I started becoming more at home in my body, and I started being in nature more. And I'm curious if you've thought about this, because you said this cool thing about the real World Wide Web, right? Which obviously pre-exists the modern internet, right? What do you think, though? If anything, why is humanity developing this technology right now that parallels something that we have innately? Is that something you've considered?
I can't answer that, but I can tell you this, that when you are connected into the real World Wide Web, you get answers, you get downloads of information, like that leads us into, and it's not just me, my clients, like synchronicities happen, opportunities for business happen, opportunities for personal lives, whether it's relationships of all sort, whether romantic or just personal or professional. But that's how I actually got to Hawaii here, because in 2019, 5 months before anybody knew about the pandemic, I got an intuitive, clear message that the world was going to shut down, and to get to Hawaii because the world was shutting down. And nobody told me that. It came to me, like literally I woke up and that's what I heard. You have to get to Hawaii. The world is going to shut down. And then because I've developed mine, I had a two-way conversation, and I'm like, is there an asteroid going to happen? What's going on? And they're like, nope, it's not an asteroid. And I'm like, it's a natural disaster. They're like, nope. And then I'm like, okay, so what is it? And they're like, just get to Hawaii. So I received that. That was in October of 2019. I arrived in December of 2019. And as we know, in February, the world started shutting down, and I stayed was here to, instead of back in Canada, where I'm originally from and originally born.
Beautiful. Well, as you say that, what it reminds me of, one of my favorite quotations from Lazarus says, if you can hear the whispers, you don't need to hear the screams, right? And I think about so many great stories of animals, non-human animals, I should say, who feel an impending natural disaster, right? Like the famous one was that tsunami that happened in Asia. When was that? Like 20 years ago, something like that, right? And all these animals that sensed it coming and ran up ground before it happened. Do you think it's similar to that for us?
100%. And let's just even go back to before colonialism happened here in North America. The hunters, and I'm a vegetarian myself, but the hunters would sense when the animals were there. And when I did my outward bound, I knew that there was a bear around the corner before we went around the corner, and I stopped the group. It was Outward Bound, a women's group of all. There was 13 of us out there, and I knew one of the women was afraid of bears, so I stopped her, and I just told her. I said, and she's like, "How do you know?" And I'm like, "I just know. I just know." So that's why. Okay, so coming back to being shot really made me want to be really connected to my innate wisdom even more, because I had that trauma. So it made me become an expert to be able to teach others how to do it as well. So, and yes, I am like one of the top, like maybe 1% of when it comes to intuition, where I can get those kind of messages, but I can get my clients up to that as well. Like, you know, very close to it, where they're saying, I was said that, you know, I had to go to the post office today. And I got to the post office and I didn't have anything to mail, but I got to the post office and I ran into my new client, and I just landed myself this client because we were standing in line and started talking, right? So it's really our intuition when we trust it, when we develop it, when we use it, it can enhance all parts of our life, all parts of our life.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, I'm 100% with you on that, Callie. It makes a lot of sense. And I think that's a perfect transition. We got a question come in. And even though I don't usually seem to notice all the comments and questions, but we got this question from Tony, which says, if I can't identify a blockage from my past, can you help me identify it and address it? So, you know, what do you think about that? Can you give any response?
Yes, the answer is yes. And that we all have blockages, all of us, including myself. I have blockages around certain things. And so what we do is so thank you, Tony, for that question. And so when we, again, tune out the static and then tune in, and then it will bubble up. We just have to take the time and the intention. And it is really about intention, setting our intention to be our best selves, and things will come up, and it may not. And there's always blocks. There's always blocks. We have so many things. And I've taught this through neuroscience, and like from studying the brain, from studying our bodies. And so basically when we're contracted, then things can't flow. But when we open up the contraction and expand, then that's when things can come through, and we give time, and then we'll be able to address those types of things. And clarity is key, and clarity will come. So thank you for that question. That's a great thing to pop on and address.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So you've had some amazing experiences and you've really overcome a lot, Callie. Where is it going for you? Like here we are at the beginning of a new year. What's your vision for yourself? What are you growing into?
Well, I am holding some retreats here in Hawaii, so that is really, I'm excited about it, because and I'm going to come out publicly today with you, where I haven't really talked about this I've only talked about this behind closed doors with my VIP clients. I actually haven't come out publicly with this, but the vortexes and the activations, from the quantum field. And so that's why it's like, usually publicly, I don't talk about the quantum field. I wait until I really, it's kind of my elite clients that I work with. But with the regular VIP, like the regular retreats that I'm doing here, I'm bringing the vortex energy into them and the quantum energy to them here that I have never done before. And so it's really exciting because I had a trial retreat and with some people and had incredible results where they were activated and lit up, where their whole life has been changed. Like they just see like life differently with a whole set of different vision and glasses, basically, because of the activations. So working with the quantum codes. And so that's really big to bring that to the masses. And then the second thing is I'm actually bringing on one-on-one clients again into my Ascension Healing Academy, which is a 6-month commitment. And it's been a while since I've taken on a 6-month commitment clients, but I'm doing that. So I'm really excited about that because that's basically training the trainer and certification course. And it's been a minute since I did that because I had my retreat center before and I was on Salt Spring Island and so now I feel like I'm ready to do that again. And that also includes retreats here in Hawaii. So they don't have to be here with me, but it does include coming to be in the vortex and in the activations of what's going on here. And if I didn't mention it, I think I haven't mentioned it, that when, like, so I mentioned about the bear, but as an animal whisperer, because when you are connected to the World Wide Web, the real one, so I have a very special connection with the cetaceans. That means like the dolphins and the whales, like a very special connection. And so when I shared that with my people, and they were just blown away. And like I said, their life now, it's like, you know, people talk about pre-COVID and post-COVID life. It's like pre-cetacean activation and post-cetacean activations. So it's completely a whole different realm, and everything changes for you on every level. And I can't get into any more than that today, but it's special. It's extremely special.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, anybody would be super lucky to be able to work with you one-on-one or on a retreat. And so I'm curious though, because, you know, sometimes like, I don't know, for me, I hear so many different terms and then I think, well, I use terms in different ways. And so I'm curious to learn more. When you say activation, what does that mean to you? Like what happens and how do you facilitate an activation?
Okay, great question. So activations look different for different people and like what happens for them. But I can tell you in general that it is about releasing the blocks and activating the chakra system and working so that they are completely whole, because every person, including myself, can get blocks and do get blocks. And then we have to make sure that we are working as an entirety, like holistically, like we talked about, body, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so an activation will look different for every single person, but it can affect you in these incredible ways. So whether you're in overwhelm and stressed, or whether you're already a leader, like an elite leader, it will bring you to the next level. It can improve. It just improves the way that you show up in life. It improves the way that you see things and feel things. It's profound. It's a profound shift from the constrictions to the expansions, and it's instantaneous. And you can take one activation and then another activation, and then it really brings you back to your spiritual self, where you can do, like, people, I don't, like, a lot of people are using superpowers like that, and I think it's, you know, that's kind of like a word that's been used the last few years. But really and I try to stay away from that word, not to use it, but that's what everybody says. It's like, I feel like I have superpowers now. I have more energy than I've ever had in my life, more than when they were a teenager, more than, when top athletes go like extremely. I've worked with athletes, I've worked with, top performers, celebrities, and they're just like, all of a sudden, they're just like, I was here and now I'm here. So, and that is, and like I said, it looks different for each and every person because it depends on where they're contracted to where they're going to be opening up. Because I can work with somebody that's in incredible shape physically, but they don't have their connection to their spirituality. Or I can have somebody that is connected to their spirituality, but they're physically, or they're having issues with their business and they can't get clarity around that. And so when they're activated, all of a sudden they get clarity on it, and they then come to the next level in one of those or all of those places that they're asking to be. And it's guided intuitively by myself and by them.
Wow. Okay, cool. That's really helpful. And as you said that, one of the things that came to me is I often think of the way of evolution or growth or greater success in life. It's as much, yes, it's good to look forward and to create goals and have aims, but as you said, letting go of the things that are holding us back. Like I love this imagery of the hot air balloon, and it's like its nature is to go up. And so when we cut the sandbags, and as you said, it could be right beliefs that don't serve us or whatever kind of old patterns. So that makes a lot of sense to me. What you said, that often the activation is really just letting go of the thing that's in the way. Am I hearing that right?
You're absolutely right. And most of the time that it's fears, unconscious fears and blocks that people aren't aware of what's going on. They have no idea. And it doesn't really matter where they picked it up. It's just about the fact of letting go of the sandbags so that they can lift to where they want. I love that analogy. So, and it's really about taking charge of your life. And I will share this, like you mentioned about intentions. And I love, we were talking just before the show about your intention about exponentially leveling up. And that literally, it's when you just have a broad intention like that, your intuition will tell you what you need to work on first so that you can peel and peel and peel and peel and lift and lift and lift and lift. And so, some people hire me, come on and they're like, oh, I want to do this. And they're like, well, why aren't we working on this? But it's because we had to work on this first. And then all of a sudden, 4 weeks into it, all of a sudden we're there and they're like, wow. And then all of a sudden it just like that, everything just goes in line and perfectly aligns for everything. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, and, as you've been speaking, one of the things that occurs to me, and it sounds like some of the people that you work with are leaders unto themselves. And, when I look at what you're doing and where you're going in this next year, what you described looks to me like you're leveling yourself up as a leader. It's a topic that I'm very interested in. And, I have a book on spiritual leadership. So what is leadership to you, and what makes a great leader?
Yes. So leadership is, first of all, to be the change you want to see. So you need to be the person. So there are so many people that are incongruent and they'll say one thing but doing another. And congruency is just vitally important. It's important I would never ask any one of my clients or anybody to do anything that I haven't done myself. And so leadership starts with us. And so for us to be the best leader, then we need to be our best selves. And, with my clientele, I work with the spiritually minded professionals who are usually pivoting in their life. So and you have your astrology background. So a lot of times pivoting happens like around the age 28, and again at Saturn return, right? And again at 56, Saturn return, and people make big changes. But it could also come in between where they lose a job. They've been working for a Fortune 500 company or a big company, and then all of a sudden they get let go, and they're just like, they don't know where to go because they're just in overwhelm. And then that's where they hire me to let them see all their opportunities of the open doors and open windows when one door shuts. And so leadership always starts with ourselves.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. And what, since you do work with leaders and you are a leader, what would you say are the most important qualities? What do you cultivate for yourself, or what do you help your clients cultivate in terms of leadership?
Well, part of the whole congruency is about integrity. And we need to be integrous to ourselves first. And to me, integrity includes truth. And so I will come back to my story when Jack Canfield was trying to get me to come up with my story. And even my closest friends didn't know my story. Like I had to call them before it came out in the book and tell them, and they didn't believe me. They're like, what? It's like, it's not that we don't believe you but you're just so vibrant and you move and you're like athletic. How could this be true? And then, and so, but my point is that, Jack Canfield told me to come out with this, and I thought that I was healed around it, but I was fooling myself. I wasn't healed. I had another layer, and then I went through it. And by writing my story, I actually went through a whole different level of healing, and also being later, different times in our lives. Sometimes, like our body. This is the big thing a lot of people don't understand. Change is scary, and we want to stay in a safe place, and our body does a really great job of trying to keep us safe, but sometimes it doesn't know the fact that it can be safe and have change. And so that's why part of the whole healing process is about making a safe container so people can expand outside of their comfort zone. And the safe container is so important. So it's also, that's what leaders need to do, is have a safe container for their group that they're leading, whether it's their team of whatever level, whether you're leading your family or leading a team of 5,000 as a CEO. It's about building safety and being integrous and being congruent. And those to me are the top three things: safety, congruency, and integrity.
Nice. Beautiful. Well, and you said something quite important, and it's in some way it's something that so many people in our world, personal spiritual development, say often. I'm curious of what it means for you and how you work with it, which was something around the importance of being able to go outside of comfort, right? To be comfortable in the discomfort, or sometimes people say, life begins where your comfort zone ends. So how do you deal with that? Because one of the things I hear from you is you're continuing. You're not saying, well, I got it all figured out, I'm totally done, right? Your process is continuing, evolving. So how do you work with going beyond your comfort zone? What does that look like for you?
Well, that's funny, because just a few weeks ago, I did an ice bath, which I said forever. I've been saying that I would never. I'm like, you guys are crazy. You can do it. I don't need to do it, whatever. And it just came to me that I needed to do it. And I actually was videotaped on it. And they said, and I didn't know that usually an ice bath is like 3 minutes max. And I got into the ice bath and I was literally shaking and convulsing. And then I just went into my Wim Hof breathing and everything. And then I went into a mantra, and it you can actually see it on my Facebook page, where I just channeled. I said, I am a whale in in Alaska right now. And I stayed for 6 minutes. They said that I basically broke they don't know anybody that did 6 minutes on their very first ice bath. And I went into this place of serenity, and all my serotonins and all of these beautiful endorphins. And I was just like, I'm loving this. And so it's like, whatever opportunity shows up to me, I check in with myself, see, is this something that's best for my body, mind, and spirit? And then if it is, then I say yes.
Wow, that's beautiful. Okay. So yeah, and that's, I'm glad you brought up the ice bath thing, because that's it's growing in popularity, right? A lot of people do it, and people ask me, because I do a daily ice bath myself, and I love it. But I remember back when I first learned of this, and like you, I was studying some Wim Hof material years ago, and he does this great approach where he says, gradually go into more and more discomfort, more and more cold. And I had been, okay, well, so no problem. I can have a hot shower and then turn it to cold. Then he said, okay, next level is you go in, you start with the shower cold. And at the time I was living in New England, so it was pretty cold. I was like, okay, I can do that. I can do that. And then he said, okay, next level is you go into the cold and you enjoy it, right? You enjoy your shower as if it was the hot, luxurious shower. And I remember when he said that, when I heard that, this was like on a video course, and I heard that, and I was like, no way, that is impossible. I was so mad, right? I had just like this internal reaction, and I was like that. But it's so amazing, right? When we go to that edge and we say that's not possible, that's not possible, and somehow it becomes possible. So what occurred for you after having, after all this time, like, you guys do that, you're crazy with that ice bath thing. Then you did it and you had this, really long experience of it. What now is possible for you that wasn't before?
Well, I did my second bath. So I really believe that what it was for me was, it just showed me that it was like a precipice for me to pivot, to say, okay, this is something I've been resisting. If I'm resisting it and it persists, it's been like that it kept presenting itself. And then, so that's why I tuned in to myself and I went, this is something I need to do. I need to prove it to myself. And I did. And so it's just, there's really, people have things presented to themselves all the time. And when it's redundantly presenting itself, it really is a message. And that's about being tuned into the message. And that's why I kept saying, well, I keep getting invited, and I'm doing it. So it must be something for me. So I really felt that it was like going, okay, I did it. And now, and it just makes you, it's like, bring it on, world. Like, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm open. I'm next level. And, and that's what we want to do. We want to go up those rungs of the ladder. And so for me, that was one, because it was persistently, I mean, I have never liked the cold, ever. And now I do. So,
Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, Callie, unfortunately, we're cruising along close to our timeline. So I'm sure our viewers, our listeners, some of them are going to want to get in touch with you and get some of that Callie juju. What's the best way for people to find you and reach out to you?
Well, I have the free miracle manifestation method.com. There is a free meditation that they can sign up for and get that from me. And so that would be a great way. And then they get to have some of my juju. It's a 4-minute and 44-second meditation, golden key meditation. And then they can have that as a free gift. And if they want more than that, then they can be contacted me through that, or at Callie@calliekares.com. But then I always like giving away the free gifts. So
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so and you said miracle manifestation method, right?
yes.
So that's let's just make it clear in case anyone's listening, not watching. MIRACLE, and then manifestationmethod.com. Miracle manifestation method. It's the triple M after the triple W. I like it. There's a lot of cool shapes going on.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. And it's about fun too, right?
Yeah, if it's not fun, we might be missing the boat. One of my teachers used to poke fun at me sometimes, and I would get uptight when I was contracted or in the midst of something, and he would just look at me and go, "It's not that serious."
Right.
Thank you. Good reminder. I forget sometimes. Infected by the deadly disease of seriousness.
Right. Levity is so important. And for people, we were talking about, getting out into nature. And if you watch nature, it's so much fun. I mean, watching the birds, whether they're trying to mate or cooing or whatever's going on, and the animals, it's just they know how to have fun. And so do the dolphins and the whales too. So
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, well, then I think that might bring us around to my last question for you, which is the big question, the final question. It's the impossible question, because you've got so much experience, right? You've had such an amazing journey. There's so much that you share with people. So it's an impossible question, because I'm going to ask you to narrow that down way too small. Yet, since you can't go wrong, you'll definitely get it right also. So the big question, Callie, is if you take all of this that you've experienced and you were to boil it down to one thing to say to our audience, one thing that would help them to create their most vibrant, thriving life, what's the one thing?
well, I have to come back then to what I talked about extensively, is connecting to the spirituality, connecting to their spirit within them as a spiritual being. Because when you're connected to that, like everything is available. So that, to me, it's just, that is the number one key, is being connected to our spirit. And then everything is just gravy after that.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm with you on that. And it's, to me, that's like, I don't use the word spiritual practice so much anymore, because it has all these different meanings to different people. Though to me, one of the most important parts, no, actually, I would say the most important part of every day for me is what could be called spiritual practice, or just the time that is about connecting and remembering, because so much of our daily life is under the illusion that we are these physical machines and all this physical stuff is what's most real. So I love that response.
Yes. And I agree with you. It is about remembering who we are and our true nature. I talked about nature, and it's like our true nature is to be connected to that. So that is 100%. We're on the same page, brother. We're on the same page.
Right on. Well, Callie, thank you so much for not just for, investing this time with us and sharing your great energy and wisdom, but also for all that you've done, all that you've overcome in yourself to develop the power and the wisdom and the experience, the credibility that allows you to be such a light in the world and to be helping so many people. I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful that you've been with us here.
Aw, thank you so much. And dittos right back to you for all the work that you're doing. And thank you for having this incredible platform to feature us. that is just a beautiful thing. I know it takes a lot of work, and I really am truly grateful from the bottom of my heart for our time together and for the work that you're doing. And I've shared to many people about you, so you're going to be hearing from some other great luminaries saying, hey, I want to get on his show too, because I have a whole network of them. So
beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And y'all who are watching, listening, whether it's live or by rebroadcast, my biggest thanks is to you, because not only are you interested in creating a vibrant, thriving life, you're doing something about it, right? I love you. I love that you are doing that. I love that you have the courage, the commitment to something more. Again, my request, my imploring of you is to take at least one thing from this show and go, I'm going to put that into practice in my life. Again, reach out if you would like to connect, if you'd like support. Thank you again for being here. Please, please, please do everything to make your life a masterpiece. And tune in again. We have another amazing show coming up really soon. Thanks, y'all. Aloha. Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.